I tried beating Terraria, but I am an engineer. Anything from a simple wooden floor spike trap all the way to a fully rapid fire terra turret is in our disposal. So, will we be able to become the greatest engineer in all of Terraria, better than the mechanic, and take out the moonlord? Well, let's find out. I started off by spawning into the wonderful green world of Terraria, and I started flipping through the pages of the Cerebral mod book. All of this is a part of the Cerebral mod and introduces a bunch of brand new classes, such as the Esper class, which I've done a video on before. But yeah, I tried to read through the book and I ended up opening up myself a starter bag. I consumed some life crystals, got myself some mana stars, equipped some accessories, all the good stuff so I don't waste the beginning of my entire game just like grinding for stupid resources that takes like 10 hours to do. And I went straight on to chopping down trees. Of course, as soon as I chopped down enough wood, I made myself a workbench and also got myself the Defender class beginner guide. We are playing officially as the Defender class, but everybody just calls this like the engineer class, so you know that's why the video is called that. And all this book did is just explain basically every single asset of the Defender class, from what the weapons are like, how the various different armor sets work, how to get more slots, and so on. This is where I decided to pull up an entire recipe browser page of all of the various different weapons that are within this mod that were also part of the Defender class. And let me tell you, there was way too much for my little brain to recognize. There were literally over 100 different weapons for the Defender class, so I was kind of overwhelmed, but you know, I started off with the little wooden spike trap that I had, and I just kind of went along with it. I checked out how to use it, and apparently if you like swing the staff, it places a spike trap made out of wood on the ground, and this is a key component, a part of these types of weapons. From what I understand, there's 3 different types of weapons, ones that shoot like these homing projectiles, spike traps as the wooden one, and also turrets. But we'll get into that later within the playthrough. Anyways, I tested this out on a slime, and then I went mining within the caverns. I found myself a life crystal while I was just like chilling in the caves. I got myself a bunch of iron, got myself even more life crystals, got myself some gold, stumbled upon a mushroom biome, I looted the entire mushroom biome, got myself tons of resources, and then I came all the way back home. As soon as I came back to spawn, I broke a little wall in one of my houses.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh yeah!
So I could place a door, and then I made myself a furnace and an anvil. This is where I could finally craft some better stuff, and using some of the demonite that I had acquired through my mining expedition, I made myself the Night Strike, which was a high velocity firing turret. This is the first time, and 100% not the last time you're going to see a turret weapon within this playthrough, and the further we go, the more insane they get, so I recommend you stick around to see what the, especially what the Terra turret is like. But anyways, as one of our starting turrets, this was pretty good. It just shot out a massive, quick bullet that absolutely obliterated enemies. But it definitely wasn't as good as the spikes, so I crafted myself the platinum spikes, and I tested them out on some zombies. Soon after this, I crafted myself the Wrangler accessory, which when used, the turrets end up firing exactly where your mouse is, so this would end up being pretty good if you want to kill unsuspecting bunnies, because the turrets don't auto aim on bunnies. So at this point I was having some evil thoughts running through my head, but you know, I didn't really act on it. I like to keep them to myself. Anyways, I tested that out, realized that there was no point in using it because, well, the turret homes in on enemies that actually deserve to die, unlike cute little bunnies. Then I proceeded to build more NPC houses. I went over to the left side of the world, found myself a pyramid, looted all of the items within the pyramid, and got myself a sandstorm in a bottle, so now I can do a super high jump. And then I went over to the jungle. Now within the jungle, I explored some chests, but I also realized that you can craft out of stingers and jungle spores a certain type of spike device and a turret. And with all those combinations, with the Knight's Edge style of progression, we could also end up crafting the Knight's Edge version of the spikes and also the turrets, which are going to come in handy when fighting the Wall of Flesh. Anyways, I grappled my way around a man-eater, and then I just kind of decided to leave him because my turret was doing an awful job at trying to take him out. And then I farmed out some hornets, but I was frankly way too underpowered, so I went to go mine some jungle spores instead, and then I teleported back home. Thinking that I had enough resources, I tried to craft one of the jungle weapons, and I realized that I only had 6 instead of 9 stingers. I had read them wrong, young and my eyesight is failing me as I get older. So yeah, enjoy your youth, children. Anyways, after a mild bout of rage, I stumble my way over to the right side of the world to make myself an infinite summon for the Eye of Cthulhu, so I do not ever have to craft it over and over again or find it in random caves. Highly recommend this quality of life mod. It's called like infinite boss summons. You need to get it. And while I was crafting the amazing Eye of Cthulhu summon, I also decided to break some of these demon orbs because maybe, you know, it would drop like some defender class accessory or weapon, but it didn't. It just did not. I decided to start making a little arena because I wanted to fight the Eye of Cthulhu next night, and I also made myself a pair of golden armor, but I didn't have enough to craft shoes. So, well, I guess I did what I could do and crafted myself like a pair of tin shoes it was. And as soon as it turned to nighttime, I started fighting the Eye of Cthulhu. I placed down the spit lobber, which is actually a thing that you can get from the corruption orbs, and it was shooting out like this projectile, but frankly wasn't too good, and this is what I was using for the Eye of Cthulhu. I just managed to take it out using the platinum spikes. That was literally the best way to take it out. Like as it would ram into the platform, I would just place it down, but you had to like really time this weirdly, so it was probably more difficult than just running around the Eye of Cthulhu, but we did manage to kill it, and that's all that matters, right? I then quickly ran over to break more orbs within the corruption, and I fought the Eater of Worlds. This was stupidly easy. I just used my platinum spikes and we demolished the Eater of Worlds, giving us overpowered resources very early within the playthrough. I crafted myself a bunch of purple bars, more commonly known as demonite bars. You know, that's the street name. And using these demonite bars, I crafted myself a nightmare pickaxe. Now, I needed to go to the Sky Islands and get myself some harpy feathers and also get myself some sun plate blocks in order for me to craft a whole new set of defender class armor that goes by the name of, you will not believe, Sky Armor. Whoa, so creative. Let's get a show of hands for the mod creator. Ooh, that is some NPC activity. Anyways, after defeating a bunch of harpies and giving up because they were just too overpowered, I decided to come all the way back to spawn and then start digging out a elevator because, hey, I might as well get myself like hellstone tools, hellstone weapons, so it'd be easier to kill the harpies, and then I can craft a full set of armor later, right? We worry about the armor later. I try to cheese progress as quickly as I can. Anyways, I drank up a black potion and a mining potion, and the black potion made us immune to the red liquid in the underworld, also known as lava. Using this overpowered technique, I started mining up hellstone and obsidian, and once I had enough, I got myself a hell forge, I came back to spawn, and I crafted hellstone weapons. Those being a pair of spikes called Hell's Spindles and a brand new hellstone turret called the Hotshot, which places a slow but powerful projectile firing turret. After I had acquired unlimited power of the blazing underworld, I decided to go back up and craft the whole new set of armor, which just required me to kill a bunch of harpies, right? I wish I had the battle cry so I could just increase the spawn rates, but you know, I wasn't too smart in this point of the playthrough. I don't know what was going on. I was probably just like sleep deprived or something, but we ended up getting enough of all the resources that we needed, and then I crafted myself a full set of sky armor. Then I went down to the underworld, made an insta bridge, and chucked the guide voodoo doll into the lava, buffing up and summoning in the wall of flesh. I frankly just used like the hell spike things that I got, crafted out of hellstone to defeat the wall of flesh, as his eyeballs would just ram into me. And this is where I also realized that in the top left we have a sentry counter, which lets us place more than one sentry at a time, and this is because of the various different armors and accessories that you can equip throughout the game. So I think the set bonus for the sky armor actually gave us another turret slot. Now I know that you see it only says 2 in the top left, but this goes all the way up to 11 by the end of the game, so it gets pretty hectic. Anyways, I managed to defeat the wall of flesh, and as soon as I came back to spawn, I crafted the altar exterminator and broke every single altar within the game, blessing the world with cobalt, mithril, and adamantite. Upon defeating the wall of flesh, we also managed to get this like clockwork turret that was better than the hailstone turret, so I just decided to use that for the early hard mode portion of the game. And then I decided to run over to the jungle, kill as many, and I mean as many hornets as I could, so I can get myself a bunch of stingers and craft myself all the various little jungle weapons that we need to craft, as I really wanted to craft the Knight's Edge version of like the turret and the spikes, which I completely forgot to do. So that wasn't too smart of me, huh? Then I realized I needed the Muramasa version of everything, and since it was still nighttime, I went over to Skeletron's dungeon and then used the clockwork turrets to fight Skeletron. And upon killing him, I went into the dungeon, picked up as many water candles as I could, freed the wizard, opened up a bunch of chests, and once I came all the way back to spawn, I crafted myself the Muramasa version of the spikes and also the turret. But this is where I had realized that even though I had acquired everything I needed to fight the deer clops to get myself nightmare fuel, which was an essence, like this little soul that was dropped by the deer clops. So I decided to put that off for later, and then I just went mining for ores first. So I got myself a bunch of cobalt, made myself a cobalt pickaxe, went mining for mithril, got myself a mithril anvil, and once I came back to the surface, we actually got invaded by goblins, so we took a bit of an L, but I decided to ignore them for now, go back to mining adamantite, and once I had enough adamantite, I crafted myself a full set of adamantite armor and the headgear for the defender class, turning our entire armor set into a defender armor set. This gave us 2 extra sentry slots so we could place down even more traps and turrets, making us even more unstoppable, far surpassing the Terraria mechanic at this point. I crafted myself a pair of adamantite spikes, and I also managed to get this like spiky ball contraption that would fire spikes from like the goblin leader. I forget what the hell his name is because I never really searched that up. I think it's called the sorcerer. And then I decided to craft myself the battle cry, and once I had the battle cry, I ran over to the jungle and then fought even more hornets so I can fully craft the spike weapon from the jungle, which we needed for the Night's Edge. Anyways, once I had all of that, then I had to go over to the underground ice biome to get myself flinks first so I can craft the summon for deer clops. And once I got myself enough flinks for, I crafted the deer thing and started fighting deer clops in my little arena. This was quite easy and we got enough nightmare fuel very quickly, and once I got all of that, I crafted myself the Night's Edge version of the turret, and then shortly after, the Night's Edge version of the spikes. Of course, me being me, I didn't realize that we didn't really need these, as well the adamantite spikes were just better regardless, but hey, it was still fun to use. This is where I went to go farm out wyverns within the Sky Island, getting myself souls of flight so I can craft myself a pair of harpy wings. And once I came back to spawn, that's exactly what I did. I crafted myself a pair of harpy wings. I then went back towards the underworld to get myself more adamantite so I can craft myself the adamantite turret, as I wanted to test it out compared to the other turrets that I had. Shortly after, I went over to the underground hallowed biome and started farming out for souls of light. Once I had enough souls of light, I went to the underground corruption biome and started farming out souls of night. And as soon as I came back to spawn, I crafted myself the summon for the destroyer. I buffed up and summoned in the destroyer. We took him out extremely easily using a combination of adamantite spikes and a crystal orbit, which was a brand new weapon dropped by the hallowed mimic that I had fought earlier. Anyways, I found a technique where if we summon in the destroyer and before he fully extends, you can use the crystal ball and spam it in the concentrated area. It will like just take him out super easily and super quickly. So I spammed the Eater of Worlds as much as I could, and once it turned to day, I went back to my mithril anvil and crafted myself the hallowed spikes and a hallowed turret. This is where I crafted a pair of gears and this like laser accessory, which we could combine into a toolkit, but I didn't have the goblin tinker yet, so I could not do that as of now. I went through a bunch of the various different accessories and realized that I can actually craft myself a chip, which gave us another sentry slot, so that was next on my mind. As soon as the goblin tinker came back, I ended up getting a tinker's workshop, combined all the accessories to make 2 different toolkits, one from pre-hard mode and one using hallowed ore, giving us more damage and more range with all of our weapons. And then I needed to craft myself a chip, but this required us a forbidden core and an ice core, which are both dropped from the sand elemental and the ice golem. So using a quality of life mod, I purchased from the mutant a sandstorm starter and a rain event, and once it turned to nighttime, I summoned in the twins. Now I decided to use my hallowed turrets for the twins to see how that would go, and it was just much better, and it was doing quite good up until the little green guy that shot out the fire just started running around and I had to start using the spikes. It just made far more sense to use the spikes, just did so much more damage, and then I took out the twins using the spikes and then coming back to the turrets. I was just like using a mix, you know, I was just having some fun. Once we took out the twins, I went straight to Skeletron Prime, and instead of using the turrets, I just decided to go to spikes because the turrets would target all of his hands, and that's just not where I wanted them to shoot. So I quickly switched to the spikes and then took Skeletron Prime out. Now the jungle grows restless, meaning Terra can spawn anytime now. But before doing this, I went to go fight the sand elemental within the desert, got myself the forbidden core, and then I went straight over to the ice biome, summoned in a rain event, and fought and defeated an nice golem, giving us all the required items to craft ourselves the chip, which granted us 2 extra sentry slots, making us pretty freaking powerful at this point. After this, I went mining for chlorophyte within the jungle, and I went on to craft myself the true Excalibur versions of all of the various different hallowed weapons that we had, making it deal even more damage. I also crafted the True Knight's Edge version of all the other things that we had, making them even more powerful than they were originally. I then went to the jungle again to mine out an arena for Terra, and as soon as that was done, I summoned her in. She actually dealt quite a lot of damage to me, which was surprising, but you know, using my true hallowed spikes, which is called the true grid arvol. I don't know if I said that right. I don't know. You guys tell me how to pronounce that. We ended up taking out Terra, and well, with some difficulty, I guess, we ended up getting a brand new weapon from her, which was the wasp emitter, which essentially placed a floating trap that releases wasps, and we can now also go and fight Golem, bringing us one step closer to becoming the most overpowered engineer in all of Terraria. Soon after, I rushed to craft a full set of chlorophyte armor with the defender headpiece, and as I came over to Golem's temple, I cleared it out a little bit and found myself some lizard power cells. As soon as I came back, I fought Golem and defeated him on my very first try using the wasp emitter, which was pretty OP for Golem, I'm not going to lie. And on our very first try, we managed to actually get the pick saw. I didn't really fight Golem again after this from what I remember. I crafted myself this like spiky ball launcher after we had killed Golem, and then I summoned a solar eclipse and waited for Mothrons to spawn so we can get broken hero swords. I kind of got bored of this, so I bought myself a bunch of Mothron summons and I summoned a ton in just so I can get the broken hero swords. And once that was done, I essentially crafted myself the Terrablade version of the spikes, which were massive and dealt tons of damage. And then shortly after, I realized that I don't have a Terra turret, so I summoned in a bunch more Mothrons until I got another broken hero sword, and I crafted myself the Terra turret. I then went to go and challenge the lunatic cultist. Using the Terra turret, we spammed him non-stop. I also managed to get myself a pair of Mothron wings, which I forgot to mention, but hey, it just like let us fly around a little bit better. It doesn't really matter, huh? Anyways, back to the Terra turret. I ended up accidentally summoning in the Phantasm Dragon as I was just not careful enough, and then I switched back to the Terra spikes as they just dealt far more damage than the turrets. If you had the accessory which allowed for the spikes to be placed in the air, is just far better than any turret would, and we ended up taking out the lunatic cultist, prompting the lunar invasion. I was struck in surprise as I was exactly where the solar pillar was, and a crawltipede snuck up on me. I ended up taking him out much faster than he could take me out, and then I started grinding out the solar pillar, which then I died to very quickly. I placed down the ancient manipulator, went over to the right, and proceeded to try and beat up the vortex pillar, which was quite difficult and I died many times. We did manage to take it out, and I got myself a bunch of fragments. I converted all of my useless fragments to defender fragments, and I crafted myself a brand new weapon called the Magnetar Deployer. This was essentially like a homing projectile missile thing that was completely overpowered. It dealt over 200 damage, and so I decided to fight the solar pillar with that. Upon getting more fragments, I crafted another weapon called the LGM-1, which was essentially the same thing as that previous weapon that you saw on screen, except it wasn't homing and it fired much faster, and this was much better than the previous weapon that I had crafted. It was totally overpowered. Using these new weapons, as it was nighttime, I decided to farm out the mechanical bosses, and we just absolutely shredded through all the mech bosses at this point. And now the only reason I really did this was so I could farm out myself some money, and once I had that, I reforged all of my items to Warden, or at least as much as I could before all of my money ran out and the Goblin Tinker stole all of my cash. I then bought myself a Tabai, which is a dashing accessory that will become really handy for moonlord. Then I went to go fight the Nebula pillar, and once I was ready and bought a bunch of buff potions, I went to go fight the Stardust pillar for last. We took that out. I quickly ran all the way back to spawn, summoned in a bunch of LGM-1s, buffed up, and started fighting the moonlord. He was going out pretty quickly, and I was pretty surprised. Now, the one thing I wasn't surprised by was my lack of movement speed, causing me to take a ton of damage, so I had to cheese him with the nurse. Of course, me being me is exactly what I did. Using healing potions, using everything, we took out both of his hands, waited for my little sentries to take his eyeball out, and then we were fighting his core. We managed to push through it, we took out his core, and we had defeated the moonlord. He ended up dropping a bunch of various different items, such as the rainbow crystal staff, which is now apparently a part of the defender class, which was quite interesting. So that's neat. And I didn't want to end off the game here, as there were still some things left to do. I wanted to craft myself a full set of defender armor, which was post moonlord, and get myself the max amount of sentry slots. I bought myself another summon for the moonlord, and then I crafted another accessory that gave us one more sentry slot. Using the rainbow crystal staff, I took out Moonlord once more, dropping us even more items. I crafted myself this like super rapid fire green machine gun that was absolutely overpowered when it came to taking out Moonlord. And then I combined a bunch of accessories that I had later equipped to get up to 9 sentry slots. And using the machine gun, we absolutely obliterated Moonlord over and over again up until I basically crafted a full set of defender armor, giving us 11 sentry slots. I'm not sure if this is the max one, but you can check out this final battle that I have with Moonlord, and it was just stupidly easy. All of these HMG turrets, yes, that's literally what they're called. They're just blasting through Moonlord. Even though I'm taking a lot of damage, it was like just the DPS alone was absolutely crazy with this. But anyways, this was a very fun mod to play, a very fleshed out class. I wish there were more armor sets, but you know, I can't really ask for much more. This is absolutely amazing. Consider checking out another video like this on screen. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Boyo. Peace out.